Hello, welcome back to the Plant Plan Kitchen. Today we're meal prepping. And actually, you're a little late. I got a head start as early as last night. Last night I started with making some air fried tofu. That's all it is. I did absolutely nothing to it except cut it up and throw it in the air fryer back there. That's it, plain and simple. The second thing I meal prepped was some broccoli. I had some broccoli left over in my freezer. I figured this would be a good side dish to have with my lunch, which is pasta. I did some Mediterranean style vegetables here. These are bell peppers, eggplant, and zucchini that I air fried from frozen. So those two vegetable sides are going to be sides for my lunch, which is a protein pasta. So I used this pasta along with some Impossible ground meat. So I put the Impossible ground meat in the pan. I put pasta sauce when that was cooked in the pan. I cooked this on the side, boom, I put them together. Simple as. There's no need to overcomplicate things. There's no need to go out of your way and all that. Now, the one thing that did kind of, I guess you could see it as a complication, is I wanted to make sure, as I always do, that I'm getting at least somewhere between 30 and 40 grams of protein per meal in my days to make it easier to get up to my 120 grams that I always try to get up to. So one thing you can do, and I wasn't going to mention all of this, but I figured it might help somebody. So let me know in the comments if knowing about how to do this is helpful. So if you look in the back, right, or the side or wherever it might be, you'll see the nutrition facts. In this particular box, it shows you the nutrition facts for two different sizes of servings, which I think is great. So here they have one serving size that is 2 ounces and one serving size that is 3.5 ounces, or I should say 56 grams and 100 grams. 100 grams, when I make that, for me, that's just so much pasta. And then the 2 ounces or the 56 grams is kind of like, all right, are we done here? So I mean, it's great if you have a side dish along with that, right? And I will have some vegetables, but I like somewhere in between. And also the math works out better where you'll have those extra couple of grams of protein that brings me to the amount of protein that I want per meal, right? So there is a huge ass bee. Where's my fly swatter? So I kind of went backwards. I knew that the Impossible ground meat was 19 grams per serving. There's 4 servings in that block. I knew I was making 4 servings of pasta. So with 30 minus 19, how much do I need for this? How much do I have to weigh out to make it times 4? And that's how much you cook, and then you just mix everything in. And thank goodness it works out to that it's not so much volume in what I'm eating. And that's something that my fellow vegans, please understand, right? That if you're looking at the amount of protein that you need per meal, sometimes Whole Foods is not going to cut it, because you would need a million beans to get a certain amount of protein, and then also you're overeating as far as calories because you're getting a whole lot of carbohydrates for the amount of protein that you're getting, right? So getting some things that are a little bit more processed than just kind of like a Whole Foods thing is necessary if you want to have higher protein in your diet. That's my preaching for the day. And so what does that look like in the end? It actually looks kind of appetizing to me. And so at the end of the day, this is what you're left with. I'm gonna have that, like I said, with some broccoli and some Mediterranean vegetables as a side, and that'll be great for me. For breakfast, I'm having granola or muesli with some textured pea protein, right? So basically I'm bulking up the cereal with like a protein cereal type thing. So I had that this morning with, I actually went to Lidl yesterday because I ran out of granola. I found another granola that I was like, you know what, let's try it. And in fact, it's not granola, it's muesli. And this is new to me. So if you have this in your Lidl, let me know, and let me know if you've tried it. If not, you should go and try it because this is actually really great. So they're calling it a superfood muesli. You know how I feel about advertisement, about superfoods and whatnot. Like, all foods are great, okay? Let's relax. But you know, it is nutrient dense, so that's great. So it has goji berry and pomegranate, that's the flavor. It also has a bunch of seeds. It has whole grain wheat flakes. It has whole grain rolled oats, so it's pretty wholesome. This, for those who are curious, has 40 grams of carbs per serving and 6 grams of fiber, importantly. And that's a great way to start the morning. If you're not into using textured pea protein or textured vegetable protein in your cereals, right? I know it might be a little weird for folks because sometimes we're used to using it as like a meat replacement in like a ground beef or ground turkey or ground whatever type of dish. So, but it's plain, it's unflavored. So, and it's crunchy, right? And it takes up moisture and flavor really well, so it can hold up in a cereal that's going to take you a while to eat, right? So that's why I'm using it. And then I just sprinkle some, you know, sweetener on it or something like that to kind of bump up the flavor. But if you're not into that, there are things like quinoa flakes. There are things like, you know, there's other stuff that you can do if you want to bump up the protein. Another pro tip is instead of using milk, you can use a protein shake, right? If you're making it yourself, just kind of make it a little bit thinner, like add a little bit more milk to it. Or not, whatever, it's up to you. I mean, folks use yogurt, right, for granola too. That's another option. You can use high protein yogurt. Do what you gotta do, right? But that's just my idea for a high protein breakfast. I looked around my kitchen and I realized, you know, I've been going on, you know, day trips and you know, house sit or dog sits. I've been traveling. I'm piling up stuff in the freezer of like bits and bobs of things that I haven't used that I'm trying to save and not waste. And so I'm starting to accumulate things and I'm like, let me just make something. And what better way to get rid of old stuff in your freezer than to make a stew? And it's starting to get a little chilly here in New York. I think it's going to be like 60s and 50s this week. Horrendous. The other day it was 40 degrees. And I was like, cool, I'm just gonna make a stew. I'm just gonna make a stew. This is what I'm using in my stew. So these shredded carrots, I know shredded carrots, when you're using carrots in a soup or a stew, you're usually dicing them or something, but whatever, a carrot's a carrot, you know? It's fine. And as you can see, it's like dripping because I've let it thaw out. I also have some celery that I chopped up ages ago, so they're a little bit discolored, but you know, I know they're fine because when I put them in there, they were absolutely fine. I have some, what is this? Some shredded cabbage, and it looks like some spinach, some leftover spinach. It's just a little bit, but you know, let's throw it in there. Let's see what works. In my refrigerator, I had a little bit of this bouillon, which I intended to use for this little stew here, but there's not much left. So I'll probably just use that for something else, honestly. But what I did have in my pantry that I bought a while ago is this not chicken bouillon base. So I'll use a cube of this, and I have the tail end of this. This is a tomato paste, right? So I'll use a little bit of this to kind of just give it some color. And I also have here that I'm going to use this to add a little bit of fat to the situation here. We have some plant butter with olive oil. You know, I mean, this tub is just not going away because I'm not using it as much. So I will use a healthy serving of that. By healthy, I mean not healthy. It's fine. I'll chop up this onion to put in the soup as well, and I'm going to use this. This is another version of textured vegetable protein. It's from Lily's Vegan Pantry. This is a OG vegan grocer downtown, and they sell these. These are beef slices, they're called. And so why not? I'm going to use a couple servings of this. What you do with these types of things is you rehydrate them and then use them. Because I'm putting it in the Instant Pot, you can see out the corner of the screen here, because I'm using it in an Instant Pot, I probably could just throw it in there, but I do like to drain out the water sometimes just to get a little bit of starchiness out. I find that it helps with the texture a little bit, so I should have done this first and foremost so that I could have some time to soak up here, but you know, we have other stuff to do. We're gonna like saute stuff and whatnot. So let's get started with this. I'm going to turn that on. I have my little scale underneath here right now. It says 1 serving is 14 grams of protein, whatever. And it's 25 grams. So let's do 50, I guess. I'll probably cut them up to make them smaller pieces too, because this is the size of it. And remember, it's taking up water, so it's gonna be, you know, plump up a little bit. 80 grams, yeah, all right, whatever, that's fine. That's funny, I went to measure it out and then I just didn't even use the number I had in mind. That's fine. We're gonna put it at saute. Cool. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to let these soak while we're doing other stuff. And then after that, I will drain it and we'll get this show on the road. Also, you may have noticed that I turned my lights off. There are flies everywhere. I don't understand. I think maybe my window might have fell open at some point, but I turned off the light to try to get this fly out of this specific room. And I went into my living room and there's like 10 of them in there. And I'm like, did someone send an invite to a party? Am I hosting? Like, I don't know. Here's the thing. I'm not gonna show you me chopping this because every time I get a knife out, there is some comment about how I chop, or I have an accident, which, you know, I guess that's, I'm crying. Okay, we're gonna take a ridiculous amount of butter. Vegan butter, everyone calm down. I don't want that to burn. So we're gonna toss this in real quick. Let's get her done. So I'm not gonna use all of these. I think it might be too much. So we'll just throw some in there. So I use probably a cup or so. Cup and a half, I don't know. I'm adding some navy beans in here. You could probably use whatever white beans you have. This is just what I happen to have, and I thought now's a great time to use them. Okay, so the onions and the celery have started going. I'm gonna add in some carrots. Let's add in 2 handfuls. This is one of those meals, this is one of those things that's gonna be like, if it can't go wrong, right? If it works out, wonderful, but it's not going to be bad. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that I really like about cooking, and why I'm not like a food tuber, like a recipe tuber, is that I love cooking. I love just making shit up. Nothing has to be, you know, a specific recipe or meal or anything like that. And for me, I'm the type of person where that sometimes takes the fun out of it, having to have very specific like ways of cooking or specific things that you're doing to get the food on your plate. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's necessary, and sometimes it's more of a headache and I just want to make something to eat. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna put the beans in the pot. Now, has everything sauteed down a lot? Not really, but again, they're all vegetables, it's all gonna be cooked, right? Like, you know, that's why we have the Instant Pot. So I'm gonna pour this stuff in. I'm gonna put a little bit of this tomato paste. Just, that's enough. Just however much wants to come out. You know, I'm not gonna squeeze the whole thing out. I'll find another use for the rest of this. We're transferring them over. So what I was saying before is that they get quite large, right? If you can compare, using my food shears, I'm just gonna make them smaller. Okay. Let me know, do you guys cook like this? Do you just look at what's in your refrigerator and you're like, I need to get rid of this? You should, right? I need to get rid of this, or I need to put it immediately in the freezer, immediately, right? I've spoken before about food waste in Western countries. I mean, I shouldn't say food waste specifically in the United States. It's just out of control. And also, I mean, in this economy, like, why are you wasting food? Food is money, right? Because you have to purchase it. Unless if you're growing it, even then, you're purchasing seeds and stuff. And that's even worse because you're wasting money and energy, right? So no one wants to be out here doing that. So it just makes sense to find a way to not waste more food. So now I have my little fake beef slices situation here. I'm going to mix things up a little bit in here. All right, now I'm throwing the beef in there, and then I will add the bouillon cube and a bunch of water. Pretty sure one bouillon cube will probably be enough. I'm assuming this is gonna be maybe two servings probably. Alrighty, I don't know how much water I have in here, but hopefully it's enough. And might as well toss this stuff in as well on top. Yeah, right now it's giving mom, can we order pizza? Do you know what I mean? Like it's not doing anything for the eyes, you know? All right, so what we do now is we are going to pressure cook on high for, I don't know, let's call it 10 minutes, right? There's nothing in there that needs to be honestly, oh, did it. We put everything in there, we put the lid on, we closed it. It's sealing now. I put the vent to sealing, and it's gonna come up to temperature or come up to pressure, and then 10 minutes will go, and then it'll give us a little ding-dongy song, and we'll try it. We'll have that for lunch. I'll call it lunch. It's a late lunch. And that's it. That's everything I am making for this week. That's how I meal prepped. As you can see, it took me not that long, really. I started maybe 12, and I've been texting and, you know, writing stuff and like going back and forth and, you know, putting my laundry away, and like I've just been up, down, and around, right? So, and then also I air fried the tofu last night, which was what, an extra 25 minutes, 25 minutes, or 10 minutes, yeah, something like that. So yeah, it's very simple. Very simple stuff here. I'll be back to show you the finished product. The vent is off. We are gonna open up this bad boy. Oh yeah, buddy. All right. So it looks fine from here. You're not gonna get the right off the pot shot. Let's put that down so there's not too much moisture. Also, you'll see that I have my fly swatter with me because there's still at least one. I think they're coming in from somewhere and I can't tell where it is. You're not interested in this. You're interested in what the hell I'm trying to eat today. And so that's what we're here to do. This is looking great. I'm gonna show you in just a moment. Okay, so I'm gonna plate this up or bowl this up. Who's to say? Okay, this looks really hearty. The beans are gonna keep us nice and full. The protein in the fake beef situation, the fiber. This looks freaking amazing. Okay, we're gonna try to get all the chunky goodness. And the funny thing is, oh, let's put this all in there. Okay, she's not much to write home about, but she's looking great. Heck yeah. All right. So I'm gonna put this lid back on. This looks so good, you guys. And I would say there's probably 2 servings that I've made. So the main protein that we have in here is the textured vegetable protein beef slices. And that is 14 grams of protein. The beans will give you an extra, maybe 8 or so. And so you might want to make sure that your other meals are increasing the amount of protein, or if you have a snack with protein, or if you want to drink this with a protein shake, what have you, right? Just kind of get it in where it fits in. This is where things like soy milk come in really handy. So if you have like a cup of soy milk on the side, whatever the case may be, right? Another thing you could do actually is just kind of throw in some pea protein in here. Really, if you're not like a stickler for texture, you could just mix it in, and like plain, unflavored, you just throw it in there. I mean, really just get her done, basically. But yeah, this is what we're working with right now. It looks really hot still, but I do want to try it because I haven't had that bouillon cube in quite some time, so I don't really remember the flavor. If you live by recipes, you are not understanding the joy of discovering stuff that you can make that will surprise you. This is delicious. It's delicious. It's warming. It's filling. It's protein packed. It's packed with protein. It's packed with fiber. It's packed with vegetables. This is a hug in a bowl, and it's nutrient dense as well, without being, kind of a really high in calorie bowl of soup, right? So this is for me, this is pretty much perfection. Oh my goodness. Hot. All right, and now let's try this beef. I only struggle with calling it beef because I've seen on so many, I've been a child of YouTube pretty much forever, and I see how people react when a vegan says beef when it's not beef, or insert meat here when it's not insert meat here. From both sides. Omnivores get really upset. It's not beef. And it's like, duh, like that's the point, we know. And then vegans would be like, oh, it's not vegan. And you just gotta be like, okay, it's vegan beef. I'm vegan, so I'm choosing vegan analogs of things. And then you have the, health people and the like unprocessed people saying their own thing, and just everyone screaming. And it's like, it tastes good, chill. Do you know what I mean? Okay. So I think the Instant Pot is the best way to cook textured vegetable protein stuff, because it really has, the pressure really does something as far as like having it absorb all the flavor and then really kind of tenderizing it. And like it's so fantastic. Now, the last time I had actual beef, it's been well over a decade, so I can't tell you how close it is to whatever. All I know is that it's hitting the right notes for me. It tastes really good. I like the texture. It's flavorful. It's savory. It's doing what I want it to do. And it's really hot. Now, I used 1 bouillon cube that had 800 milligrams of sodium. This is going to be probably 2 servings, maybe 3. I don't know. It's probably going to be 2 servings. So that means that there's around 400 milligrams of sodium per serving. It'd be better if I split it up in 3 serving, but then now the protein is much less, which is fine. Again, like I said, you just up the protein in another meal to make sure that you're rounding out to whatever amount you're trying to hit if you do have a protein goal. If not, this is all irrelevant, except for the fact that you do want to make sure, most people, I think, especially if you're sedentary or you have hypertension in your family or your doctor has told you to watch out for it, most of us probably could stand to have a little bit less sodium in our diet. Another thing you can do along with that is add some potassium, right? Kind of helps balance things out. That's a whole other video. That's a whole other topic. There are plenty of people online who, have mentioned information about that. So that's definitely something to look into if you are someone who is trying to reduce your blood pressure, right? It's just a little something that can help. I'm not saying it erases any of the sodium that you are taking in or if independently, right? But instead of using as much salt as you normally would, you can use some potassium salts, right? To kind of, supplement a little bit of that so it's not just all salt. Okay. But in any case, this for me is really hitting the spot. I'm trying to think of what else I could have done here. You could put in, I would probably put in more carrots next time, or diced carrots, although it doesn't really matter. They kind of disintegrated really in this. I'm not seeing any like long things of carrots. So that might be my new hack here, because sometimes the diced carrots, unless if you go to the frozen bags, they're way more expensive than they need to be. So this like $1.99 Trader Joe's bag or $2.49 or whatever the heck it is now, that might be the go-to so that you're not sitting there chopping carrots all day, right? This would be great with chickpeas. That could be a good alternative. Lentils would probably work as well. Any type of lentil, really. If you had red lentils, it would just kind of make it thicker. If you had black lentils, amazing. Just, a different version of the soup. It's really just that meal components, right? The formula that I gave you in that last video of how to plan your meals, how to plan how you're thinking about what a meal should be if you have any kind of body composition goal or any kind of like long-term health goal that includes improving your diet. You want lean proteins, or for my fellow vegans, as lean as we can make it, right? Sometimes we don't have the most leanest, proteins out there, but lean protein should be a component. Vegetables, right? Starchy vegetables as well as non-starchy vegetables, or fibrous veg, non-fibrous veg, however you want to split them up in your head. And then also some sort of fat, right? You can add that, or if it's already kind of in some of the other components, leave it be. Depends on you and how much energy you need in that particular meal. How are they represented here? Like I said, we have the textured vegetable protein that's giving us a good dose of protein there. We have the beans, who have 2 functions here, mostly as a starchy carb and also giving us some additional protein. We have the carrots, we have the onions, we have the cabbage, we have the spinach, and then we have the olive oil based butter, vegan butter, that's adding some fat there. And then we have, what else do we have going on here? A little bit of that tomato paste, whatever. It's not really doing much except for adding a little bit of color here. And so that's lunch, y'all. That's lunch. You might want to have some crusty whole wheat bread with it. You can just have some fruit at the end if you want a dessert or whatever else you're doing. But this for me is a great, fantastic meal. If you're curious about some of the things I've been saying about how to plan your meals to make sure that it's a well-rounded, balanced meal for your diet plan, I'm putting some information in the description and in the comments about my meal planning sessions that I'm offering for you guys. It would be a half hour of us getting together and doing this, planning your own diet from scratch, one-on-one, so that you can go on and achieve whatever goals it is that you want. Check that out. All right, talk to you soon. Bye. I'll tell you what, this might be one serving.